We had a nice meeting in Las Vegas where EMC had our conference. And Las Vegas, if you haven't been there, you've probably seen it. There are a lot of lights, and there's a lot of action there, and it's completely different than Mangalore. So, and I've been to Mangalore before. That there's a lot of splash. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance in Las Vegas. But when I was talking to one of my colleagues, since I had been to India before, since I had been into universities, since I've talked to a lot of students, the comparison I made was that even though they have a lot of physical lights in Las Vegas, when I look at the passion and the commitment and the level of knowledge of the students in India, I think the lights shine a lot brighter here than in Las Vegas. I want the passion, that same passion that you show to your studies and to your knowledge and your career development. I want the same passion in the U.S. And I can honestly tell you that it's not there. We have to change our education system. We have to make improvements, and we're working on that. But I think in the future we're going to be looking at countries like India, who have invested a lot more into education, and I think in many cases we'll be copying you. So I congratulate you on your investment and your passion so far, and I wish you the best in the future. Okay. So I hope you don't mind, but I live in 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit temperature zones. So I need to take my jacket off. It will go much better if I take my jacket off. My manager at EMC, and I try to give him a PowerPoint presentation. He typically comes back to me and says, "Tom, no more PowerPoint slides. I don't want to see them. Cut the story down to a minute." So when I was putting together this presentation, I said to myself, why don't I give you the benefit of seeing what the overall message is in 1 minute. So you've already heard from some of the speakers, and you'll hear from me in a little bit more detail about the explosion of information in front of us, what we're all living through. But let me take 1 minute to show you a video on the history of information and what's in front of us going forward.
The history of information in 55 seconds.
So to get ready for this presentation, I watched that video. I spent about 10 minutes watching that video, so I watched it about 10 times. And it's funny, every time I watched it, I was by myself, so I started to think maybe a little bit more than I should have. But some of the messages in there are, it's taken us, as a civilization, it's taken us thousands of years to get to the point where we are today. However, if you look at it from an information point of view, and you look at the curve and the growth of information on an annual basis, over the last 5 years, it is exploding. So there's been a relatively slow incline, but just like other revolutions that we've all read about, there is now the connectivity, or the connected revolution, meaning the network, and that's driven and also the need for people to have information, that's driven a sharp increase in information. And to me, that's a challenge, but it's also opportunity. And it's opportunity for you as students going forward, you as professors and deans, to make sure that our students are well positioned. In the industry, in the storage industry, in the IT industry, there is a company, there's a research firm called IDC, International Data Corporation. And they traditionally track market share of different competitors in different markets. And they also track, in our space, they track number of shipments. So, well, wait a minute. What we want you to do is look at the amount of information that's being created each year. So they did a study 2 years in a row, reported in 2007 and then in 2008. And what they came back with is this ticker. And this is sort of like the world population ticker, where people are born, people die. But this is how much information is being created right now. Now, for those of you who know some measurements of storage, you obviously know kilobytes, bytes, gigabytes, terabytes. This is where maybe some people get lost. But in the past, like 5 years ago, a terabyte was unheard of. Now there are many companies around the world that they buy terabytes on a regular basis. Terabytes used to come in disk arrays that would fill this room back here, literally. And that was in the late 90s. Today, you can get a terabyte on a 5 1/4-inch form factor disk drive. So we've been making, from that point of view, shrinking everything just like the rest of IT. So terabyte. After terabyte is petabyte. After petabyte is exabyte. And what you see up here on the left, 433, that's zettabytes. Now we have to come up with another one, which most people presentation, yottabytes. So pretty soon the world is going to be, on an annual basis, creating yottabytes of information. I don't know if there's anything after yottabytes, but we'll probably have to come up with some new words. Okay, so IDC, this is IDC's data, EMC just sponsored it. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but what this slide says is that there have been different revolutions that have gone on in the history of time, over the last couple of hundred years. So of course, we had the Industrial Revolution, the Transportation Revolution, the Information Processing, so the chips revolution, and now the Connected Revolution. And each one of these, as they matured, things accelerated. So if you look at the transportation industry, what happened is first you had to lay the tracks for the trains, then you had to go deeper into the rural areas so the farmers could get to the cities. But then, the tracks started being laid down much more efficiently. The trains were going faster. They used less energy, coal and so forth. So that's the same thing that's happening right now. There are more improvements, faster improvements in hardware, in software, in services. And what's happening is that makes people more competitive. So as we create more information, whether you're an individual or whether you're a company, is to drive competitiveness. And that's what we're seeing right now, and that's one of the reasons why information is increasing so much, so quickly. Okay, so are you ready?